If you think of the Holocaust, you think of Hitler, and possibly even Dr. Josef Melenge. But what about this doctor makes him so known and popular? Did he do good, or was he an evil person? Before we dive into that, one thing we know is that Melenge was another prominent figure during the Holocaust, and even now. Welcome back to our YouTube channel, as today we will discover the truth behind this infamous physician and his actions that led to the world hating him. Make sure you stick till the end of this video to hear the extent of this man's barbaric actions. Born on March 16, 1911 in Günzburg, Germany, he belonged to an established family. His father had a business of farm equipment, and his mother was a housewife, a mother to 3 sons. Mengele was the eldest, and lived up to his family's expectations by excelling at school and arts. He then completed his schooling in 1930 and gained an interest in philosophy in Munich, where he came across the racial ideology of Alfred Rosenberg, whose philosophy entailed a strong racial hierarchy and anti-Semitism. He enlisted in the Sturmabteilung, translated as Assault Division, in 1933, but he ceased actively participating in it in 1934. As an extreme Nazi, he joined the research staff of a newly founded Institute for Hereditary Biology and Racial Hygiene in 1934. There, he was an assistant to the director, Dr. Ottmar von Verschuer. Remember or heard this name? Verschuer was a leading geneticist known for his popular research on twins. Mengele obtained his medical degree from University of Frankfurt and in 1935 earned a PhD in physical anthropology from the University of Munich. He then passed the state exams in 1936. During his university studies, Mengele studied racial science, the false theory of biological racism. He believed that Germans were biologically different from and superior to members of all other races, a common trait of the Nazis. Mengele was not shown to actively support the Nazi Party. However, in 1931, he joined the Stahlhelm, the paramilitary of another right-wing party, the German National People's Party. In 1938, he joined the Nazi Party, and through his work of being a scientist, aimed to keep the Germans superior to any other race. In 1939, he married a woman named Irene Schönbein, who he had met working as a medical resident, and they had a son named Rolf in 1944. In June 1940, Mengele was drafted into the German army, and a month later, he volunteered for the medical service of the Waffen-SS, the military branch of the military party. Around the end of 1940, Mengele was assigned to the engineering battalion of the SS division Viking as a medical officer. For about 18 months beginning in June 1941, he saw brutal fighting on the Eastern Front. In addition, in the first weeks of Germany's attack on the Soviet Union, Mengele's division slaughtered thousands of Jewish civilians. Mengele's service on the Eastern Front earned him the Iron Cross, both second and first class, and promotion to SS captain as well. In 1943, his experiments began. He worked as one of the physicians at one of the biggest Auschwitz camps and also a killing center for many Jews deported from Europe. Joseph was responsible for the Gypsy camp. During World War II, the Romani people were victims of the Holocaust, known in the Romani language as the Parajmos, meaning the devouring. Nazi Germany and its collaborators established concentration camps specifically for Romani people, where many were interned, forced into labor, and exterminated brutally. One of the most infamous of these camps was the Gypsy family camp, Ledger, at Auschwitz-Birkenau, where more than 21,000 of Romani men, women, and children were imprisoned, and many died as a result of the experiments. When this family camp was dissolved on August 2, 1944, Mengele participated in selecting the 2,893 Romani prisoners who were to be murdered in the Birkenau gas chambers. But the question arises, how did Josef Mengele select prisoners to be murdered? The purpose of the selections was to identify who was unable to work, as the Nazi Party considered them useless, and hence they needed to be murdered. Those who were able to commit to forced labor were spared, and those who couldn't, such as children and elderly, were murdered in gas chambers. Periodic assessments also took place where people had been too injured or too weak were weeded out to be killed. These killings took place through different methods, from gas chambers to lethal injections. As Mengele was routinely a part of such assessments, it led to him being known amongst prisoners as the Angel of Death. Despite the name and popularity, he was neither the highest-ranking doctor nor the commander of the other doctors there. Nevertheless, His name is by far the best known of all the doctors who served at Auschwitz due to Mengele's frequent presence in the camps where selections took place. Although he did not select any himself, he would look amongst prisoners to find twins or other prisoners for his own experiments. Separate from his usual duties at Auschwitz, Mengele engaged in research and experimentation on prisoners. During his time there, he sent blood, body parts, organs, skeletons, and fetuses taken from Auschwitz prisoners to his colleagues in Germany, and also collaborated on their research projects by conducting studies and experiments on prisoners. Mengele also performed his own experiments on Auschwitz prisoners, aiming to publish the results to qualify for a university professorship. However, the work of Mengele was affected by his belief in a pseudo-scientific racial theory. This theory stated that human races are genetically distinct and ranked hierarchically, with inferior races more likely to exhibit negative traits than superior ones. This draws in many similarities with the philosophy by Alfred Rosenberg, showing the significant effect it had on Mengele. He primarily targeted Roma and Jews for his experiments, as these groups were considered subhuman and a threat to the German race. Mengele conducted an anthropological study of Roma men, women, and children in the Zigeunerlager, gypsy camp. When a gangrene outbreak known as Noma occurred among Roma children in the camp, he assigned prisoner physicians to study it. Although Noma typically affects severely malnourished children, Mengele attributed the condition to the children's heredity rather than the camp's dire conditions. Despite the prisoner physicians discovering a cure for Noma, all the children who were cured were ultimately murdered in the gas chambers. Other than that, Mengele was particularly focused on studying twins. At Auschwitz, he gathered hundreds of pairs of twins from newly arrived Jewish transports and from among the imprisoned Roma. No researcher before him had that opportunity to study and experiment on such a large number of twins. Mengele instructed his staff to measure and record every aspect of the twins' bodies, drew large amounts of blood from them, and often subjected them to other painful procedures. He subjected them to numerous procedures, which included amputating healthy limbs, intentionally infecting them with diseases like typhus, and transfusing blood from one twin to another. Many died during these procedures, and those who survived were often killed and dissected for comparative post-mortem examinations. Nisli, a Hungarian prisoner, shared an instance where Mengele simultaneously killed 14 twins by injecting chloroform into their hearts, while some twins were sewn back to back in a gruesome attempt to create conjoined twins. He also targeted those with abnormalities such as dwarfism or gigantism, and even pregnant women. Those who survived his brutal experiments were sent to the gas chamber in a matter of weeks. Joseph believed the Jews were an inferior race and needed to be eliminated. Mengele also sought out Jews with heterochromia, a condition in which a person's eyes differ from each other in color, as one of Mengele's colleagues was particularly interested in this condition. He then had persons with heterochromia murdered at Auschwitz and sent their eyes to this colleague. Amongst all these specificalities, most of these were children. For one experiment, he even inserted a substance provided by his colleague into the eyes of young children and even newborns. This led to irritation and even death, as the children cried out in pain. In January 1945, as the Soviet Red Army advanced through western Poland, Mengele fled Auschwitz along with the other SS personnel from the camp. He then spent several months at the Gross-Rosen concentration camp and its subcamps. In the final days of the war, he disguised himself in a German army uniform and joined a military unit. After the war ended, this unit surrendered to U.S. military forces. Mengele, posing as a German army officer, became a U.S. prisoner of war. In early August 1945, he was released by the U.S. Army, which was unaware that his name was already on a list of wanted war criminals. From late 1945 until the spring of 1949, Mengele worked under an alias as a farmhand near Rosenheim, Bavaria. During this time, he was able to re-establish contact with his family. When U.S. war crimes investigators discovered Mengele's atrocities at Auschwitz, they attempted to locate and apprehend him. However, deceived by false information from Mengele's family, the investigators concluded that he was dead. Realizing that he was not safe in Germany, Mengele, with financial support from his family, fled to Argentina under another alias in July 1949. By 1956, Mengele had become well established in Argentina and felt secure enough to obtain Argentine citizenship under the name Josef Mengele. However, in 1959, he learned that West German prosecutors were aware of his presence in Argentina and were seeking his arrest. This prompted him to move to Paraguay, where he obtained citizenship. In May 1960, Israeli intelligence agents captured Adolf Eichmann in Argentina and brought him to Israel for trial. Correctly assuming that the Israelis were also searching for him, Mengele fled Paraguay. Supported by his family in Germany, he spent the remainder of his life living under an assumed name near Sao Paulo, Brazil. On February 7, 1979, he died by suffering a stroke and drowning at a vacation resort in Sao Paulo. He was buried nearby. And when the government decided to actually track Mengele down and bring him to justice, they could find his exhumed remains confirmed by DNA. This horrendous man managed to evade arrest for more than 34 years and was never brought to justice or held accountable for his actions. His ability to escape capture for decades highlights the challenges faced by post-war justice efforts and the depths of human cruelty and barbaric actions. Got another case you would like us to discuss on this channel? Comment down below. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for future videos. See you!